All right. Well, I'm absolutely super far behind on some of the stuff I want to talk about, but I want to talk about the Lakers upsetting the Warriors and also how it ties into the death of Nancy Reagan. Also, I just previously made videos on YouTube agents who comment on my all my old videos and whatnot. And when they commented on my videos, they were actually foreshadowing some of these events. So, and I've noticed that happen before. So let's move on here anyway. So, the Los Angeles Lakers upset the Golden State Warriors on March 6th or 3/6 of 2016. In this game, there was a ton of Kobe Bryant tributes, and a lot of the numbers tie into all of these other events. You know, Nancy Reagan's death, Peyton Manning retiring that day as well. Also, you know, Pope Francis and the 923 stuff. So anyway, this game was on 3/6, but I knew that there would be a lot of 34 and 43 coded into the game because just from me studying Kobe Bryant over the last year, I've noticed a lot of 34 and 43 things around Kobe Bryant. He tore his Achilles at the age of 34. It was also even against the Golden State Warriors. Interesting, the date numerology adds up to 49. The word Warriors equals 49. In that game, Kobe also scored 34 points. He got the Lakers their 43rd win. And remember in that game when he tore his Achilles, he came back in and he shot 2 free throws with the torn Achilles. He made the score 109 to 109. The word Los Angeles equals 109. When he came back to basketball, he came back 34 weeks later, and they played the Toronto Raptors, which sticks out because that was the team that he got his 81 points against. And then later that season, they ruled him out completely on March 12th of 2014. That has a date numerology of 49 as well. So he gets hurt against the Warriors, you know, and then whatever. 49, 49, 49. His 81-point game even came 43 years after Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game. In that game, he got his 80th and 81st point at the free throw line with 43.4 seconds left in the fourth. 4-3, 4-3. Tons of other stuff. You know, he was the youngest player ever to score 30,000 points when he was age 34. I believe 104 days as well. So the Warriors lost their 61st game of the season. If you write out the word 34, 34 even equals 61. And since the Warriors lost, out of their 4 games this year, it makes the Warriors 3-4 against the Lakers, or they won 3 of the 4 games. The Warriors won the first time they played this year, 111 to 77, so they won it by 34 points. Interesting, the Lakers scored 77 points, and then when the Lakers beat them, it actually stopped the Warriors from being able to finish the season with 77 wins. Now the most they can get is 76. Steph Curry, also the 7th pick in the draft. This is his 7th season. The Warriors were going into that game with a 7-game winning streak. And like I said, I'll get more into it later here with Nancy Reagan, but 7/7 or July 7th is the 188th day of the year with 177 remaining. And its mirror day is June 26th, 6/26, which is the 177th day with 188 remaining. But anyway, right off the bat, I got a video, but here's just a picture of it. Kobe Bryant makes an easy layup here, and he gives the Lakers their 4th point, making the score 3-4. Then they show us the stat about Byron Scott, his head coaching record with the Lakers, 33 and 112. So after this, the Lakers won, Byron Scott even got his 34th win. Also, remember the Lakers scored 112 points in this game, so Byron Scott's record is now even 34 and 112 as the Lakers head coach. It was also his 146th game coaching the Lakers. Just interesting because 146, Oakland, California equals 146. Been seeing this number foreshadowed in a lot of things. It was even the street sign of the Aubrey McClendon death That the big 14-6 sign stood out a lot, but Byron Scott and Gematria equals 43. Even at the end of the first quarter, the scores totaled 43, 21-22, 43. Then they even show us the stat of that D'Angelo Russell is 3 of 4 on three-pointers. And the reason that I mention this is because he hit a three-pointer to give the Lakers 33 points. There was also a lot of 33 references in this game. I didn't talk about a whole lot of them in this post, but anyway, right after Russell, they show that stat or whatever. They showed this as well, D'Angelo Russell, the second overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft, the highest Lakers pick since 1982 when James Worthy was picked. So just interesting, he's the highest Lakers draft pick in 33 years. He made a three-pointer giving them 33 points. Also in the picture above here, he got his third three, giving the Lakers 39 points. Remember on March 1st, he got 39 points and they made a big old deal about it. It was against the Brooklyn Nets. And this is why D'Angelo Russell's a great fit for the Lakers. His name adds up to 58, just like Los Angeles Lakers. He scored the 39 points against the Nets. Nets equals 58. The Lakers play in Staples Center equals 58. Interesting too, Brooklyn Nets, Brooklyn equals 112. The Lakers just scored 112 points on the Warriors. There was a whole lot of 112 on this day. 112 is actually a pretty significant number in general, which I'll talk about later. Even in the Brooklyn game, after he made his eighth three, he pointed at his arms and he said, "Ice in my veins equals 66," just like the word Lakers. Also, look, he did it on 3-1. When he scored the 39th point in this game, it was 39-31. But anyway, more 34-43, so Kobe then scores the Lakers' 43rd point, and when he does that, it makes the score 43-34. Even at the beginning of the game, the announcers say that Kobe's missed 13 games this season, and 3 of the last 4. Also, I talked about Shaq before. Shaq wore number 34 for the Lakers, so it makes sense why Kobe and Shaq couldn't play together anymore because, the 34, for whatever the reason, it's around Kobe. But Shaquille O'Neal and Gematria equals 61. Remember, if you write out the word 34, it equals 61. So maybe there's more 34 around Shaq that I just haven't really looked into. But wouldn't you know it, Shaq, also born the same day that the Lakers played the Warriors and beat the Warriors. He turned 44. I mean, the Warriors are surrounded by 44 this year. It's their 44th season at Golden State. Steve Kerr came back on the 44th game on 122 when the Warriors scored 122 points. Also the day that the Cavs coach David Blatt was fired, 122 days before his birthday. But that also means that Kerr missed 43 games this season. Golden State in Gematria even equals 122. And also, this game was 44 days after Steve Kerr came back on the 44th game of the year. The Warriors also just coming off their 44th consecutive home game win that tied the Chicago Bulls record. Also, earlier in the season, the Warriors were chasing the Lakers' 33-game win streak in the beginning of this season. The Lakers set the record 44 years ago when Jerry West was on the team. Jerry West in Gematria equals 44. He also wore the number 44. He's also the logo for the NBA. And I put a random picture in here, but the Warriors had 44 points for a super long time in this game. They never scored. They finally called the timeout when the Lakers went up 56-44. So just interesting, the Lakers, they were going for their 56th win. They stayed on 44 forever. They called the timeout when the Lakers got 56 points. The word kill also equals 44. Also, in regards to Shaq, remember in the previous Warriors game when they played the Thunders, I talked about it on my YouTube video, I even showed a little clip of it, how Shaq messed up calling Sean Livingston on the Warriors Randy Livingston, and they made a big deal out of it. They kept saying Randy, blah, blah, blah. Well, Sean Livingston wears number 34 for the Warriors. Also, Randy equals 26 and 62, which has been a major theme as of late, which I actually will talk about more as we go on. Anyway, the halftime score was 49-60. Just interesting, if you total this score up, it adds up to 109, just like Los Angeles. Also, Warriors equals 49. They had 49 points. Also, Lakers had 60, and Gematria equals 34. Also interesting to point out, 1960 was 56 years ago. The Warriors going for their 56th win. 56, a number I've noticed mostly with bad things, but then there's been a few times where it's worked in the favor. Like the Broncos were in their 56th season and whatnot. But Paris, France equals 56. ISIS 56. Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, Adolf Hitler, all add up to 56. But I was almost positive that the Warriors weren't going to win after I saw the halftime score because they were down by 11. And I've been talking about how 11 is a winning number, and the Lakers were up by 11. There was also other 11 tributes to the Lakers in this game. There was absolutely no 11 tributes to the Warriors in this game. But anyway, the Warriors have only been down by double digits 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times this year, this game included. This was the third time that they were down by 11. They showed us this stat. The first time that they were down by 11, the Warriors lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. It was their first loss of the season. The second time was on 2/27 against Oklahoma City. They were down, but they actually came back and won that. I'll explain that here in a second. Also interesting, it was 7 games, so now their record, when they're down by double digits at half, their record is 3-4. Anyway, in that Bucks game, they were down by 11 at half. That Bucks game is exactly 11 weeks before the next time they were down by 11 to Oklahoma City on 2/27, which I think that's why they won and not lost on that game, because it was 11 weeks later. There was other 11 tributes in that game to the Warriors and not to the Thunder. And I just haven't figured out the complete pattern of how they're using it good and bad yet. I'm getting close though. Anyway, the Lakers were still up by 11 after the third quarter. It was 73-84. Then in the fourth quarter, with exactly 11 minutes, Brandon Bass gets fouled and he goes to the line. They're down by 11 with 11 minutes. Brandon Bass goes in and makes the free throw, making it 12. And then they show that he has 11 points. And then he missed the second free throw, keeping his 11 points. So, just kind of interesting. Down by 11 with exactly 11 to go. Then he gets his 11th point. Brandon Bass in Gematria equals 109, just like Los Angeles. He was also the 33rd pick in the draft, drafted to the Hornets when they also played in Oklahoma City because of Hurricane Katrina. Just found that interesting, that he was the 33rd pick in the draft as well. Also, 11 weeks is 77 days. I just mentioned that earlier when the Lakers lost to the Warriors by 34 in the first game of the season. The Lakers only scored 77. The Warriors can't win 77 games anymore. It snapped a 7-game win streak. If you write out the word 77, it equals 49 and 175. Just interesting. Los Angeles Lakers equals 175. Warriors equals 49. The Warriors' first loss on 12-12 to the Bucks to 3-6, the day they lost to the Lakers, is a span of 12 weeks, 1 day, similar to 121. Warriors, the big way, equals 121. But I notice I'm running out of time, so I'll see you in part 2. So the Lakers' first loss of the season on 12-12 to the Bucks. If you go to the day they lost to the Lakers on 3-6, it's a span of 12 weeks, 1 day. Similar to 121, Warriors, the big way equals 121. Also, some other interesting numbers on that was it's a span of 2 months, 23 days. Just an interesting number. Masonic and Jewish gematria equals 223. It's the backwards skull and bones number. Oklahoma City Thunder equals 223. There's a big connection with them and the Oklahoma City Thunder, especially in regards to the 227 stuff. Also, 85 days. We've talked a lot about 85, 58 this year. If you were born in 58, you'll even be 58 years old this year. Lots of other connections to it. There's a Back to the Future connections. There's the 85 Bears were connected to the Super Bowl. Freemasonry equals 58. Talked a lot about earthquake stuff in regards to 58 and 85. You know, the Warriors play in San Francisco or Oakland where there's a lot of earthquakes. Curry even equals 85 in gematria. But the reason I put it in here is because it's connected to the 227. The Warriors beat Oklahoma City on February 27th, 227. The 58th day of the year, by the way. Then the next time that they played Oklahoma City, the score totaled up to 227. The 49th prime is 227, so the 49 connected to the Warriors. Also, if you go from March 6th, the day they lost to the Lakers, to the day the NBA Finals begins on 6-2, it's a span of 2 months, 27 days. Also, 88 days, Oklahoma City Thunder, the small way equals 88. You know, Back to the Future in regards to the 85 and the 58, you got to go 88 miles an hour for time travel. Also, a few other interesting things to point out. The Warriors lost their first game on 12-12 of 2016. If you write out December 12th, 2016, it equals 144. 12 times 12 is 144. Talked a lot about the 44 connections to the Warriors. The word 44 even equals 144. Just to point it out here, 12-12 to the beginning of the NBA playoffs is also a span of 4 months, 4 days. The 44. We also got this stat in the game. Warriors 13 turnovers, Lakers 1 turnover. Just looks like the 131. The word championship equals 131. This game was also Steph Curry's 131st consecutive game with a three-pointer. There's been lots of other 131 connections I've talked about, even in regards to the Super Bowl, also to the royal family and whatnot. Prince Charles equals 131, or King Charles equals 131, one or the other, can't remember. But the other one equals 107. If you write out 107, it equals 131. So it's connected either way. But right after they show you this, Kobe Bryant also loses his shoe for the second time in the game. And when he loses his shoe, the Warriors go down and get their 51st point. They get an easy basket because Kobe loses his shoe. Kobe loses shoe in gematria. It equals 51. The Warriors got their 51st point. If you write out lost shoe in gematria, it equals 113, just like Kobe Bryant, just like Michael Jordan. Talked a ton about this number in regards to the Warriors. Curry even wears number 30. The 30th prime is 113. In this game, they even say Curry averages 11 shots from three-point range, similar to the 1-1-3. The Lakers-Warriors' first game this year was on November 24th, 2015. If you go to the date of their last game, 3-6-16, a span of 3 months, 11 days. The Lakers got their 13th win and kept 51 losses. And this game was Kobe Bryant's 1,331st regular season game ever. He's also been in 220 playoff games. So literally a total of 1,551 games. So, I mean, the 31 mirrors, Oakland equals 31, Curry equals 31. They picked up Varejao 31 days after David Blatt got fired, a whole bunch of 31 stuff in regards to the Warriors. And then the 51 stuff goes with the Cavs, which is super interesting because Cleveland equals 51, Cleveland Cavs equals 51, LeBron James equals 51. Cleveland hasn't won a sports championship in 51 years. And the Lakers became 13 and 51 on these days of Kobe. They even tell us in the beginning of the game that Kobe has started 1,183 games in his career. So I'm just interested to see what's going to happen on his 1,189th game that he starts. It'll match the chapters in the King James Bible. He's from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is named after the Philadelphia in the Bible, in Revelation. So, I mean, this is the end. He's retiring. It all makes sense. Of course, I can't figure out what game that's going to be because I never know if he's going to sit out. He's been sitting out a lot of games randomly here and there, so. But there's 18 games left. I'm sure he's going to start up until there at least. Maybe he'll even finish on that or something weird. Who really knows? Just something to keep an eye on. Anyway, once again, we get a 34 stat in the game when the score is 55-65. Right after this, the announcers say both teams with 7 turnovers, just like a 77, and they have a combined 11 points. And right when they say this, Klay Thompson makes his 57th point. Just stuck out to me. They talk about the 11, and then number 11, Klay Thompson makes the 57th point. Then Jordan Clarkson, who, by the way, his name adds up to 56 in gematria, just like what the Warriors were going for, their 56th win. He makes his third 3 of the game, the 33. The announcers even kind of go crazy and they say he's 3 for 3 on the 3 ball. And remember, Kobe Bryant's from Philadelphia. Philadelphia just turned 333 years old on October 27th this year, or 2015. It was also the same day that the NBA season began. It's the day that Back to the Future ends in 1985 when the Royals win the World Series. It's also the same day that the World Series began, Game 1 of the World Series, when the TV power went out at 9:19 and came back on at 9:23. Numbers associated with Pope Francis and also Queen Elizabeth. Kobe announced his retirement 33 days after this day when Philadelphia turned 333 on the 333rd day of the year, November 29th. Interesting, in gematria, Kobe equals 33, Michael equals 33, Stephen equals 33. And look, Clarkson, before he hits that third 3, the Lakers had 65 points. Philadelphia, the small way, equals 65. Kobe even announces his retirement 3 months and 6 days before 3-6. The Warriors were 55-5 going into this game. Retirement equals 55. The date numerology that Kobe retired on was 55. He even shot an air ball at the end of the game before he announced his retirement. Air ball equals 55. A week before Jeff Gordon finished his first race, or his last race ever, Jeff Gordon equals 55. Jeff Gordon also drove car number 24. Kobe wears number 24. There's more to this as well. I'll get into that in a little bit here. The Lakers won against the Warriors. They won by 17 points. If you write out the word 17, it equals exactly what Los Angeles equals, 55-109. So it just goes together with all this retirement stuff. Kobe even tore his Achilles against Golden State in his 17th season. Like I said, there's a ton of obvious 24 tributes in this game. When number 34, Livingston, was at the line, he makes the score 24-24. And then Kobe comes back in with 10-10 left. 24 on the shot clock, 24, 10-10. I talked about this with the X theme in the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl score was even 24-10. X in Roman numerals equals 10. Our language, X is the 24th letter. And the reason that that's significant is because there was a Black Panther theme in the Super Bowl. Also, it was coded to the 1985 Bears, who won Super Bowl XX or Super Bowl 20. Kobe even wore number 10 when he played in the Olympics, so 10 and 24. Also, remember the Warriors started this season off 24-0 before they lost to Milwaukee on 12-12. So another 24. 12 and 12 is also even 24. Then the announcers even mentioned Kobe played 24 minutes in the game when the score was 81-99. So the Warriors were down by 18 and they had 81 points. Interesting too, even if you added up 81 and 99, 180. In numerology, you take out the 0, so that would be an 18. They even say right after this that the Warriors have 18 turnovers. I mean, it's no accident. In Kobe's 81-point game, the Lakers were down by 18. They came back and won by 18. The game was even on 122. Remember, Golden State equals 122. The Lakers scored 122 points that game. Kobe had 81. The rest of the team had 41. Kobe Bryant and Gematria, the small weight, equals 41. That game even got the Lakers their 40. It was their Lakers' 41st game of the season even. I mean, ridiculous. Kobe missed 18 shots in the game. He was 18 of 46. He also was 18 of 20 on free throws. The Warriors picked up Anderson Varejao on 2/22. It was after the Trailblazers dropped him. The Warriors picked him up 3 days later. Then the Warriors lost to Portland. Interesting, they play Portland again on 3/11, which is 18 days after picking up Varejao. Varejao is wearing number 18. When the game was almost over, they gave us this stat about Kobe. They show 25 minutes, which is weird because they say 24. He never played again. Also on ESPN, if you go and look, it says 24. NBA.com, it says 24. But anyway, it shows that he was 4 of 14. And then they tell us that his farewell tour is ending on April 14th, which is also 4/14. And they have 18 games left. 3/6 to the day the NBA playoffs begin is also a span of 41 days. This is like 41-14, the mirrors. Kobe Bryant equals 41. He wrote the retirement poem called Dear Basketball. Dear Basketball equals 41. It also equals 113 the big way, just like Kobe Bryant. The 6th prime number is 13. The 13th prime number is 41. Just sticks out. The Warriors got their 6th loss. The Lakers got their 13th win. Also, the next night, when the Warriors broke the Chicago Bulls streak against the Orlando Magic, the game was all about the number 13, or that whole night was about the number 13. And I'll just show a little bit about that game here. So, notice the Magic finished with 113 points. The Warriors' 44-game streak, where they tied the Bulls, was 1 year, 1 month, 3 days after their streak began. The last time they lost was even to the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan equals 113. Talked about that before. Steph Curry, number 30, 30th prime is 113. Orlando even got the game within 2 points when the score was at, or the time was at 1-1-3 in the fourth. Curry also finished with 41 points, so the 13th prime. The Warriors won by 6. The 13th, 6th prime is 13. Curry even had shot 13 threes. He played 37 minutes on 3-7. He also led the Warriors in rebounds with 13 rebounds. I mean, no way. The Warriors were even up 13 at the end of the first quarter. They had 31 points the mirror. They were still up 13 at half. 13 to Gematria equals 45. They just got their 45th home game win streak. The same night, LeBron passed John Havlicek, becoming 13th on the all-time scoring list. Cleveland lost to Memphis, though. The total score was 209. Last year, the Warriors played the Cavs 209 days before 923. The score even totaled up to 209. But running out of time, like I said, just make another part. See you in part 3. So the Cavs and the Warriors played each other this year on Christmas Day. If you go from Christmas Day to 3-7, it's a span of 73 days. 3-7 can also be written as 7-3. Christmas Day to the NBA Finals is a span of 2 months, 11 days. There's something to this, the 923 stuff. LeBron shot 9 of 23 on 11-4 of 2015, 211 days before the NBA Finals. It was also 51 days before this day. Like I said, the Cavs and whatnot are connected to the 51. The 44th day of the year this year even had a date numerology of 51. Also interesting, which I'll talk about more later on with this stuff here, but the Warriors broke the streak against Orlando Magic. They beat the Chicago Bulls streak. Orlando Magic equals 112. Remember, they just lost to the Lakers, who scored 112 points on them. And I'll talk about more of this in a little bit here. Let's just go back to this other one. Just wanted to make the point that it was all about the 13. The last time the Lakers and Warriors played was on January 14th, 2016. If you go to 227, which I said is a special day for the Warriors for whatever the reason, mostly because they're connected to it with the 49, but it's 44 days or also 1 month, 13 days after that day. Also, if you go from 227 to the day of the NBA Finals, it's 3 months, 6 days, and 3-6 to the NBA Finals is 2 months, 27 days. So 3-6 and 227 are even mere days to the beginning of the NBA Finals. And yeah, like I said, 227, the 49th prime. Also, 22 divided by 7 is 3.14, similar to pi. Steph Curry was even born on March 14th, 314. April 14th, in regards to this 414, and the Kobe Bryant's last game will be on 414. That date just sticks out a lot because Abraham Lincoln was shot on 414. He died 9 hours and 9 minutes later at 7:22, right? The reverse of 227. April 14th can also be written as 14/4. So it looks like the 144 that connects to the 44. If you write out 44, it equals 144. If you write out April 4th, it equals 144. Talked about the Warriors connected to the 44. Obama's the 44th president, also the 43rd person to be president. But in regards to the 34 and 43 that I talked about at the very beginning of this post, with the Lakers and whatnot, Abraham Lincoln is also surrounded with 34, 43. He was born on the 43rd day of the year, became president on 3/4. He died 4 years, 3 days after the Civil War began. Kansas was the 34th and last state to join the Union before the Civil War. They joined 34 days before Lincoln became president on 3/4. The 20th Amendment changed the president from starting on 3/4 to 120. 120 to 3/4 is 43 days. The first president to start his presidency on 120 was the 34th President Eisenhower, who was also the 43rd term president. Interesting to point out, too, that the amendment actually started with FDR, but Eisenhower was the first president to actually start on 120 because FDR died in his 4th term in office, and he died on April 12th, the day that the Civil War began. Also the day that Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles versus Golden State. Just different years, but the same day. Also, the 20th Amendment was to lower the lame duck. Lame duck equals 34. Lincoln equals 34. Murder equals 34. Civil War equals 43. Assassination equals 43. Obama's right now, he's in his lame duck period, and like I said, he's also the 43rd person to be president. Interesting, too, I don't know why I threw this in here, but Jeff Gordon announced his retirement on 122, which ties into Golden State once again, ties into the Kobe Bryant 81-point game. But Jeff Gordon was born on the same day as Obama. Jeff Gordon just turned 45 this year. Actually, I take that back. Even more significant. Jeff Gordon turned 44 this year. And he was born on Obama's birthday. Also interesting, Jeff Gordon currently resides in Charlotte, North Carolina, home of the Carolina Panthers, ties to Steph Curry, ties to Michael Jordan. I mean, wow. Princess Charlotte. I talked about all of this, and I'm actually going to mention it here later on, but didn't realize he lived in Charlotte. So also the game that Kobe returned on after tearing his Achilles was against Toronto, like I said, the team that he got his 81 points against. But after they lost, they got a record of 10-10. Once again, tying into the 24 theme, the X theme. It also means they went into the game with a 10-9 record. Los Angeles equals 109. Also, on the day that the Lakers beat the Warriors, Peyton Manning announced his retirement. Peyton was number 18. He retired after 18 seasons. Remember, even the first play of Super Bowl 50 was number 18 to number 81 for 18 yards. A whole bunch more to that. Just pointing out that Peyton Manning also connected to 18, just like Kobe Bryant. If you write out the word 24, it equals 167. If you write out Peyton Manning, it equals 167. The 39th prime is 167. Manning is 39 years old. Kobe has 39 days left if you go from the day they beat the Warriors to his final game, 39 days. Also interesting to point out that Super Bowl 24 was when the Broncos lost to the 49ers 55-10. It's just interesting. The 10, talked about both of them numbers already. Super Bowl 50, like I said, was 24-10. I never even really thought about it, but 24 plus 10 equals 34. And the reason I talked about the X theme was because of Beyonce doing the Black Panthers thing. They made the X on the field. She even wore the X like Michael Jackson. Tons of other stuff with that. Lots more to it. See the previous videos, please. But in regards to Malcolm X, Malcolm equals 24. X, the 24th letter. Malcolm X's real name is even Malcolm Little. Little equals 24 in Gematria. Also, I never thought about it, but X in English Gematria. So English Gematria, you just take everything in simple Gematria and times it by 6. X in English Gematria equals 144. You know, it's the number that's connected to political assassinations, also connected to 44. Martin Luther King Jr. died on April 4th, 4-4. April 4th equals 144. The first president to ever die in office was the 9th president. He died 4 weeks and 4 days into his presidency on 4-4. Obama will be the 9th president to die in office if he dies in office. He's the 44th president. He's even 9 presidents after the last president to be assassinated, JFK, the 44th term president. Also interesting about that, I said Abraham Lincoln died 9 hours and 9 minutes after being shot. This year, Obama sang Amazing Grace at Clementa Pinckney's funeral. It was 9 days after 9 people were shot. If you go from the day he sang Amazing Grace to 4-4 of this year, it's a span of 9 months and 9 days. And the reason I even mention that is because we just had the death of Nancy Reagan the same day that the Lakers beat the Warriors. But she's connected to this number 626, which is interesting because that is the day that Obama sang Amazing Grace at Clementa Pinckney's funeral. It was also the day that gay marriage was legalized and a ton of other stuff. So anyway, let's look at the Nancy Reagan stuff here. So Nancy Reagan dies the same day that the Warriors died in Los Angeles, pretty much. Nancy Reagan equals 49, just like Warriors, just like Staples Center. She also died at the age of 94, which is the mirror of 49. She was married to the 40th President Reagan. If you write out 40th President, it equals 94 in Gematria. His last public appearance was in 94 at Nixon's funeral. He even divorced his first wife in 1949. And look when she died, September 10th, 2010. which can also be written as 10-9, just like Los Angeles. She even died 5 years, 5 months, 25 days before Nancy Reagan died. Just interesting, 25 is 5 times 5, 2 5s, 5, 5, 5, tons of 5s. 5 equals 24 in gematria. The 5th prime is 11. Even after Ronald's assassination attempt, Nancy Reagan got a lot of flack for hiring an astrologer to make Ronald's schedule from after that or whatever. Astrologer equals 49 in gematria. Also interesting to point out, Nancy Reagan's real name is Anne Frances Robbins, which equals 179, just like the Warriors' record after losing to the Lakers 55-6. Anyway, Nancy Reagan's death made me think of what I've been talking about for a while now, the death of Queen Elizabeth II. You know, they're both old, significant, powerful women. Queen Elizabeth became the queen on 2/6 of 1952. She was 25 in the year 52. She turned 26 that year. So she became queen on 2/6, turned 26. She's even coronated on 6/2, 62 years ago. This year will be 63. She was born in 1926. But 2/6, 1952, just so happened to be Ronald Reagan's 41st birthday. Him and Nancy also got married in 1952 on 3/4. They were also married for 52 years until he died in 2004, which also was 3 months and 1 day after 3/4. Just interesting, it ties together with Oakland again, the Warriors, the 31 stuff. So also, they ended up getting married 27 days after the Queen became the Queen and Ronald turned 41. It's also a span of 3 weeks and 6 days. Just interesting that she dies on 3/6. Her name in simple gematria equals 103, just like Peyton Manning's full name in gematria. Interesting, you know, he retired that day, she died that day. It's all about Kobe's retirement and whatnot. The 27th prime is 103. Also, if you go from 2/6 to 3/6 of this year, it's 29 days. The 29th prime is 109. Just like I said, she died in Los Angeles. Los Angeles equals 109. If you write out First Lady of the United States, it equals 109 in gematria. Ronald even died 17 weeks after his birthday. 17 equals 109, like I showed before. The Lakers won against the Warriors by 17. Nancy even just so happened to die 122 days before her birthday, which also is 17 weeks. Also 33.33% of 2016. Thought that was interesting. Remember, Golden State equals 122. Steve Kerr came back on 122. Kobe even scored 81 on 122. Talked a lot about this. The 52nd prime is 239. We're in the 239th year of the United States. 5/2, May 2nd, is the 122nd day normally. This year it's the 121st day, or 23rd day. Also, the 52nd day of the year is 2/21, the mirror, 1/22. Talked about Princess Charlotte being born last year on 5/2. Michael Jordan owns the Charlotte Hornets. He was 52 last year. He just turned 53 in February. Jordan also retired after wearing number 23 for 9 seasons. That was the first time he retired. He wore number 9 on the Dream Team. And in Space Jam, they even show them 2 jerseys together, 9 and 23 on the wall. This year will be 23 years after he retired. If you write out the word 23, it equals 55. Space Jam equals 23, just like Michael Jordan's number. I mean, Space Jam has just been a major theme as well. It came out after the 95-96 Bulls won the finals. The Bulls the Warriors are chasing their record. Space Jam came out on 11/15 of 1996, so it was 112 days before 3/6. And remember, the Warriors just broke one of the Bulls' home game win streak against Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic equals 112. But I'm going to stop the video right here and make another part because there's a lot of significant information that needs to go together here. So See ya in the next part. So anyway, in the last part, I was talking about Space Jam being a major theme. It's connected to the 95-96 Bulls that the Warriors are chasing. Space Jam came out 112 days before the Lakers beat the Warriors. 112 is a super significant number in this day, but anyway, Space Jam 112 days. Michael Jordan in the Space Jam game even scored 44 points. Once again, the Warriors connected a lot to 44 this year. They lost to the Lakers, who scored 112 points on them. It made Byron Scott's record 34 and 112 as a Laker coach. Also interesting, Queen Elizabeth II was born on 4/21, the 112th day of the year. 3/6 is the 66th day of the year. Just interesting, the 2 6s. 66 plus 66 is 112. So 3/6 is even the halfway point from the beginning of the year to Queen Elizabeth's birthday. Also interesting, 4/21, the Queen's birthday to the day the NBA Finals began, is a span of 1 month, 12 days, similar to 112. The Queen's coronation anniversary is even on that same day, 6/2. She was coronated on 6/2/1953. So 62 years ago, it will be her 63rd anniversary. The Warriors then broke the Chicago Bulls' home game win streak of 44. They got 45 after beating the Orlando Magic. Orlando Magic equals 112. Also interesting to point out, when the Bulls had the record, the last home game that they lost was to the Orlando Magic. And now the Warriors beat the streak by beating the Orlando Magic. The Warriors streak, the last time they lost was to the Chicago Bulls. The Warriors broke the streak on March 7th. That adds up to 55, once again connecting to the 55-5, all of the retirement, the Kobe Bryant stuff. In other parts of the world, they write, or the emergency dialing code isn't 911, it's 112. So just interesting, the 112. Remember, the Lakers kept their 51st loss, so they're 13-51 after this game. The Warriors' last loss was to the Blazers when Damian Lillard, who adds up to 112, scored 51. Chicago Bulls in Gematria equals 112. Also 49, just like Warriors. The word Zionist equals 112. Even if you go look up like David Blatt, the Cleveland Cavaliers coach that got fired, it says that he is a Zionist. Just want to point it out here, David Blatt, and right here it says, he says that in Israel, he became much more Jewish and much more Zionist. I mean, just interesting because, the Jews control the media, the sports leagues, whatnot. I mean, just think about the NBA. David Stern, Adam Silver, tons of Jews. And I guess I just mentioned that even more because, they're the ones who obsess over these numbers and do this crap. So, anyway, also, Andre Iguodala equals 112. He didn't even play in this Lakers game. He sat out of this game, so interesting. His name would add up to 112. There's a lot of 112. I mean, even the 49th episode of South Park, Cartman is like pulling his teeth out on purpose to get money from the tooth fairy, and his mom calls the dentist and says that he loses 112 teeth on the 49th episode. Joe Paterno got 112 wins back. He even died on 122. The first president to die in office was William Henry Harrison, the 9th president. His relative was also the 23rd president, Benjamin Harrison. Just interesting, the 9th and the 23rd, 923. Benjamin Harrison died exactly 112 years before Pope Francis became the Pope on 3/13 of 2013. Also, he was the guy who served between Grover Cleveland's 2 non-consecutive terms, the 22nd and the 24th. So interesting, the 24 I've been talking about a lot. Just point this out here too, Grover Cleveland's real first name is Stephen. Just reminds me of Stephen Curry. Also, if you write out the words 239, we talked about this in regards to the 923, Pope Francis and whatnot. We're in the 239th year of the United States. 239 equals 112. Also, some other interesting ones. Sandy Hook equals 112. Fidel Castro equals 112. Obama's making a trip to Cuba on March 21st this year. So interesting, Fidel Castro equals 112. The 112 that sticks out the most to me, though, is that when Jordan told Klay Thompson, go ahead and break the record. Go ahead and break the record equals 112. It just sticks out a lot because if Michael Jordan gave them the okay to go ahead and break the record, you think that they are going to break the record. Michael Jordan's been like the Chicago Bulls god, the NBA god for how long? So if he gives them the Warriors permission to break the record, you think they would. So interesting. It equals 112 as well. Also, in regards to Michael Jordan, on like New Year's Eve, I believe it was, Kanye West, who has been significant in all of this coding as well, even connected to the Paris attacks, connected to the 626 that I'm going to mention here in a minute, all kinds of stuff. But he dissed Michael Jordan, or he dissed Nike and the Air Jordans. He said Yeezy just jumped over Jumpman, and Michael Jordan's son like laughed about it on Twitter or whatever, but Yeezy jumped over Jumpman equals 112 as well. Also, in regards to Nancy Reagan, Ronald Reagan was an actor before he became the president. So was Nancy Reagan. That's how they met even. Nancy Reagan, as an actor, her name was Nancy Davis. Nancy Davis equals 112. So anyway, the day before this game, I made a video, or a little video series on how YouTube agents and how they comment on all my old videos. And it's always when I put out some pretty significant piece of information or whatever. And in the video, I talked about how recently they had commented on my Carry a Rose Co. video, and also my Kanye West, Slipknot, Corey Taylor, gay marriage, all kinds of stuff tied into it video. And both of these videos I talked about in that video were connected to the number 919, and also that number is connected to the 26 and the 62. I even talked about how a long time ago YouTube was copyright striking my video at weird times. I put it up on 919, which also, it was in 2014, which even had a date numerology of 62. 919 is the 262nd day of the year. They copyright struck my video 177 days later. The 177th day is 6/26. I fixed it, and then they copyright struck it again on June 8th, which was 262 days after the 262nd day of the year when I put the video up. And I said that I think there's something significant that's going to happen on 6/26 this year. And then we had gay marriage was legalized. Obama sang Amazing Grace at Clementa Pinckney's funeral. It was a really big day. So for whatever the reason, the way they were commenting on my video or copyright striking that video, they were showing me the future of what was going on. And I believe that that's what they did again on this video, just by the way they were, the times and the videos that they left comments on or whatever. So anyway, I talked about Obama singing Amazing Grace. It was 9 days after 9 people were killed. The first president to die in office, the 9th president, Obama would be the 9th president to die in office, blah, 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 blah. I talked about that earlier. But, I mean, like I said, this is exactly what I think is going on with my newest comments. They were letting me know the significance of 9/19 again. That was the day that Pope Francis also began his trip to the United States. Pope Francis visited Cuba on 9/19 before coming to the United States on his 923rd day as Pope, and then the next day he went to the White House at 9:23 a.m. on 9/23. And of course, you know, in the World Series we had the power outage that went out at 9:19 and it came back on at 9:23. Also interesting, Obama is going to be in Cuba. Pope Francis went to Cuba on this day, and Obama is going to be in Cuba on 3/21. And if you go from this day to the day Obama is going to be in Cuba, it's a span of 6 months, 2 days. Also 26 weeks, 2 days after the 262nd day of the year. Anyway, also, if you go from March 6th, the day that Nancy Reagan died, then the next day, and you go to 6/26, June 26th, it's a span of 112 days. Also, I talked about Ronald Reagan's first wife, and I talked about how she died on September 10th. September 10th also leaves 112 days left in the year. So both of his wives are even connected to the 112. Anyway, what really stuck out to me about Nancy Reagan, I typed her name in on gematrix.org, and I don't usually see this happen very often. I don't even use Jewish and English gematria very often. Well, it stood out to me that in English gematria and Jewish gematria, her name equals 618, and then in simple gematria, 103. September 19th is the 262nd day with 103 days left until the end of the year. Nancy Reagan even equals 103. And I couldn't figure out what 618 was, so I just typed in as a date 618 to 36. Just so happens to be a span of 262 days. Also, if you write out 618 in Jewish gematria, it equals 919, just like the 262nd day of the year. In simple gematria, it equals 199. September 19th can literally be written as 9/19 or 19/9. So definitely foreshadowing the 262 and the 919 date for me. Also, if you write out September 19th in gematria, it equals 91, a number I've seen only around elimination and death this year. The Roseburg, Oregon shooting happened on 10/1 with 91 days left until the end of the year. It was also Jimmy Carter's 91st birthday. Jimmy Carter was the last president to visit Cuba. He wasn't actually an active president at the time, but he is the last president to actually visit Cuba. So interesting. Also on 6/18/1633, that's when Charles I became the King of Scotland. I've talked a lot about if Queen Elizabeth dies, then her son Prince Charles would become King Charles III. This guy got executed because of the English Civil War. It was the Cavaliers versus the Roundheads. The Cavaliers were supporters of King Charles I, the royals. Anyway, Prince Charles, Queen Elizabeth's son, he turned 67 years old 113 days before 3/6. Also, I found interesting, I've been mentioning the number 24 with Kobe and all kinds of other stuff, the X theme. 24 in Jewish gematria equals 1881. Stands out a whole lot to me because James Garfield, one of the assassinated presidents, was shot at a train station, and he ended up dying on 9/19 of 1881. And also 9/19 is the 91 mirrors, 9191 or 19. But I've been mentioning this forever. I talked about how it's connected to the Philadelphia train wreck that happened on 5/12 of 2015. It happened at 9:23 p.m. That's how it's connected to Pope Francis. Pope Francis equals 122, just like train wreck. It's just a continuing foreshadowing of Obama's assassination. You even had LeBron James in the movie Trainwreck and whatnot. But Prince Charles turned 67 113 days before then. And then if you go from March 6th to the anniversary of the Philadelphia train wreck, it's a span of 67 days. Also, 2 months, 6 days, the 2662. The word queen also in gematria equals 26 and 62. 3/6/16 this year was the 66th day. Like 2 6s, Lakers equals 66. Similar to 2 6s. Also interesting, the Philadelphia train wreck to March 6th was 9 months and 23 days. So March 6th, 9 months, 23 days after the Philadelphia train wreck. It all ties in together. It's amazing. But I'm going to end this one right here. See you in the next part. So 923 is still a significant thing. It's still going on. For how long, who knows? Maybe until July 4th when the 239th year of the United States ends. I'm really not sure, but still going on. Previously, I had mentioned about Steph Curry shooting 9 of 23 for the first time ever against the Bulls on 127 of 2015. It was also the last time that the Warriors have lost a home game. So they have the streak or whatever. Then the day that the streak started on January 31st, 131, Curry also shot 9 of 23 for the second time ever in his career. And that's when the streak began. Like I said, I have a whole bunch of other posts on this and whatever. There's a lot more to it. LeBron James is also connected to the 923. His name in gematria, Jewish gematria, even equals 923. He was in the movie Trainwreck where Amy Schumer was 9 at the beginning. And then the rest of the movie takes place 23 years later. Anyway, so I had looked up LeBron and I looked up Steph Curry and I thought, I wonder if anybody else on the teams were involved with 923 as well. So I looked up Klay Thompson. He's the only other guy on the team that would even really have a chance to shoot 23 times. I looked up everybody though, but Klay Thompson, the first time he ever shot 9 of 23 was last year against the Bulls as well. But it was the game on 12-6 of 2014. And the Warriors just so happened to win with 112 points. The total score added up to 214. I talked about Valentine's Day over and over last year, and I talked about how it was connected to the Warriors and whatnot, the Chicago Bulls even, and the Warriors ended up winning 122 days after Valentine's Day. They won the finals on 6/16. Golden State even equals 122. Thompson also shot 9 of 23 on 3/1 of 2015. Against the Celtics. Just interesting, 31. The 11th prime is 31. Klay Thompson, number 11, drafted 11th in the 2011 draft. Then he shoots 9 of 23 on 3/1. If you go from the day that he shot 9 of 23 the first time to the second time, it's a span of 1 month, 21 days. Warriors equals 121. They're originally from Philadelphia. Philadelphia is in the book of Revelation. Revelation also equals 121. Also, if you go from that day, it was 34 days before the Warriors played the Cavs last season. It was also the Warriors' 34th game of the season. And look, they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers with 112 points. And they won by 18, giving the Cavs their 18th loss of the season. And the Warriors got their 29th win, which I'll mention here again in a second. But what's interesting is because that game on 1-9 when they played the Cavs, Kyrie Irving of the Cleveland Cavaliers was 9 of 23 in that game. So 34 days after Klay Thompson was 9 of 23, Kyrie Irving was 9 of 23 when the Warriors played the Cavs on 1-9. And LeBron didn't play in this game. And then the second time that Kyrie Irving... Well, this was actually the second time Kyrie Irving was 9 of 23. He was also 9 of 23 on 12/31 of 2014 against Milwaukee, the team that literally they broke the streak of the Warriors this year on 12-12 and whatnot. Even the next time the Warriors played them, the Warriors won 121 to 112. That was the first time Kyrie got 9 of 23 then. The second time was the day that they played the Cavs on 1-9, but LeBron never played in either one of these games. So I just typed out LeBron James didn't play. Interesting, it equals 219, just like back-to-back championships. I mentioned this previously a whole bunch of times with the Golden State Warriors. Even the beginning of the season, October 27th, to the beginning of the NBA Finals is a span of 219 days. The Warriors lost to Portland on 2/19, their 53rd game. Anyway, a ton of other 2/19 references, especially in regards to back-to-back championships, which this even sticks out because I talked about how Russell Westbrook won back-to-back NBA All-Star Game MVPs, just like Zach LaVine, the Teen Wolf. Or he's not a Teen Wolf this year, but he was last year. He wore the Space Jam jersey doing the Space Jam dunk. But he won back-to-back slam dunk contests. There's a back-to-back type theme going on this year. Anyway, if you go from Klay Thompson's 9/23 game to the day they played the Cavs. It was 15 games later. So I just went 15 games after that game, and it was when the Warriors beat the Knicks on 2/7 of 2015. Just interesting. It was 29 days after their 29th win. Also, the reason that I wrote this in here was about the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks stand out, and I'll tell you here in a second here, but also I forgot to mention when Klay Thompson got his second 9 of 23 against the Celtics. It gave the Celtics their 34th loss last year. This year, Cleveland lost to the Warriors by 34 on January 18th, 2016. It was 34 games after LeBron went 9 of 23 against the Knicks on November 4th, 2015. The Cavs played the Knicks again on 3/26 of 2016, which is 34 games after they played the Warriors. So it's their 68th game. Just interesting, LeBron is the only guy that I have found this year that has shot 9 of 23 on either of these teams. And it was against the Knicks, 34 games before the Warriors. 34 games after the Warriors, they play the Knicks again. It's also a span of 143 days, so they don't play the Knicks again for 143 days. That really stands out because David Blatt was fired on 1/22 because of the loss to the Warriors by 34. It was after coaching 143 games. It was on 1/22, 122 days before his birthday on 5/22, which just so happens to be the 143rd day of 2016. Also interesting, 3/26, the day they play the Knicks again, to the day of the beginning of the NBA Finals is a span of 68 days. So they play their 68th game, 68 days before the NBA Finals begin. Also, if you write out the word 68 in gematria, it equals 146 and 56. Interesting, Oakland, California, where the Warriors play, equals 146, but also David Blatt's full name in gematria equals 146, and he's also 56 years old right now. So 68 equals 146 and 56 connects to both the teams. The Warriors also had an interesting game against the Knicks this year as well. They played on 131, a number we just keep seeing over and over and over, championship 131, whatever. But it gave them their 44th win, making their record 44-4. And remember in the Thunder game when Steph Curry hit that three-pointer and they stopped the clock at 44.4 seconds? Pope Francis even gave a speech on using Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address lectern in Philadelphia this year. He gave the speech at exactly 4:44 p.m. 444, also a super significant number. Any number in simple English gematria also equals 444 in English gematria, just like the word Masonic. I mean, Jesus, cross. Just interesting in regards to Pope Francis, he does it at exactly 4:44 p.m. Messiah. I mean, the list goes on. Gospel. So just pointing that out. Also, the score of this Warriors-Knicks game was 116-95. That adds up to 211. If you go from LeBron James' 9 of 23 game to the beginning of the NBA Finals, it's a span of 211 days. The Warriors play the Knicks again on 3/16 of 2016, 1 month and 11 days before the NBA Finals. It'll be the Warriors' 67th game. Knicks even equals 67. Anyway, also in regards to Nancy Reagan's death, I cannot help but think of NASCAR from last year. NASCAR equals 56, just like Ronald Reagan, just like the word president, just like tons of other stuff. I talked about it previously, tons of videos on this. Nancy Reagan's last film came out on 7/1 of 58 called Crash Landing. That even equals 56. A lot of interesting numbers in here, 7/1. Super loaded to the Super Bowl and whatnot. I've talked about the 58-85 earlier. But anyway, last year in NASCAR, both of the Bushes, Kyle and Kurt Busch were both out, and they were both replaced by guys with a Reagan name, Reagan Smith and David Reagan. So both the Bushes replaced by Reagans. Just funny, you know, Bush, Reagan, the president's names. Reagan Smith was also born on 9/23. And what's interesting about that is he replaced Kurt Busch, who was born on the same day as Obama, also the same day that James Brady died in 2014, the guy who was shot during the Reagan assassination attempt and died 33 years later. But the reason it sticks out is because Kurt Busch was suspended for domestic violence against Patty Driscoll. I don't know if it was his wife or his girlfriend, I can't remember, one or the other, but she claimed to be a trained assassin. So interesting, his wife or whatever is a trained assassin. He was born the same day as Obama, replaced by a guy born on 9/23. His brother won NASCAR last year. His name even adds up to 52 at Gematria. He came back at Charlotte. Princess Charlotte was born on 5/2. Michael Jordan was 52. Owns the Charlotte Hornets. Tons of other stuff with that as well. He got hurt on 2/21. He broke his leg the 52nd day of the year. Tons of stuff around him. And then he announced his comeback the same day of the Philadelphia train wreck. And I had talked about how there's going to be a lot of NASCAR wrecks or something significant is going to happen with NASCAR or racing or something. And there was a ton of NASCAR racing deaths last year. This one in particular sticks out a lot. The fake Monetta, Virginia shooting, or the Roanoke shooting. And look, on the bottom here, when they show this picture here, it's talking about the one guy who died in the crash, the NASCAR crash or whatever. Not NASCAR, but a race at Pennsylvania. And they even have Franklin County, Bridgewater. So Franklin, Bridgewater, I talked a lot about the Franklin Bridge in Philadelphia and whatnot. So just interesting. There's just been a lot of Philadelphia coding. Abraham Lincoln even got shot with a Philadelphia Derringer. Pope Francis, his last place he's visited in the United States was in Philadelphia. So I guess just wanted to repoint a little bit of that out. Some of the other things that I just want to point out that I didn't know where to fit them in here. 3-6, if you add 34 days, actually takes you to 4-9. So fitting for the Warriors. 34 games before 3-6, the Warriors beat the Bucks, 121-112. The game was on 12/18. If you go to 3-6, it's a span of 11 weeks and 2 days, similar to the 1-1-2. 11-2 is the 306th day. If you take out the 0, it's 3-6, kind of like the day that Nancy Reagan died. The Lakers beat the Warriors. If you go from 11-2 to 3-6, a span of 4 months, 4 days. I mean, just lots of this. 44. I swear it's for the assassination of Obama. The Warriors' first loss was 36 games before 3-6 even. The Warriors lost on 113 to Denver, who scored 112 points on them. The 34th prime is 139, just interesting. 139 equals Freemasonry. The Warriors' first game against the Lakers to the second time they played the Lakers is a span of 1 month, 12 days. Also talked about the Jungle Book in regards to the Black Panther theme. The guy who voiced the Black Panther in the movie died the same day as Huey P. Newton, the founder of the Black Panthers, who founded them in Oakland, where the Warriors play. Jungle Book equals 112 and 40 in Gematria. Also, the day these guys died was the day that the English Civil War began, with the Cavaliers versus the Roundheads. The new Jungle Book movie comes out the same day that Abraham Lincoln died, which also will be the 151st anniversary of Lincoln dying. The 51 mirrors whatever that goes with the Cavs. It's also 112 days after the Cavs and Warriors played on Christmas Day. Black Panthers equals 49, just like Warriors. But ran out of time, not going to make another part, so have a good one.